An elderly veteran in civilian clothes was humiliated and blocked from entering a military ceremony by dismissive guards who assumed he was nobody. When a 4-star general arrived and publicly revealed his decorated past, including 2 Distinguished Service Crosses and a legendary career, the entire base saluted him. Before we dive in, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? The guards saw an old man in a cheap jacket. They didn't see a soldier. Fort Bragg's main gate was a parade of power that morning. Gleaming staff cars, officers in dress blues, silver stars glinting on collars. A change of command ceremony was about to begin, the kind that made careers and filled bases with brass. But at the security checkpoint, a weathered man in his 60s stood frozen, an invitation trembling slightly in his calloused hand. "Step aside, sir." The corporal's tone made "sir" sound like an insult. He limped forward, extending the printed invitation. "General Chen requested my presence. I served with—" "You're not on the list." The second guard crossed his arms, smirking. "This gate's for VIPs. You sure you got the right place? VA clinic's about 2 miles that way." Behind him, a brigadier general in full uniform strolled through without breaking stride. "No questions. No credentials checked." The older man's jaw tightened. His eyes, clear, steady, haunted, fixed on the guards with something between sadness and disbelief. He'd faced enemy fire without flinching. But this cut deeper than any wound. 48 hours earlier, James Halford sat alone in apartment 3B, holding an envelope he'd read 3 times already. The invitation was formal, embossed seal, heavy cardstock, the kind reserved for dignitaries. But it was the handwritten note tucked inside that made his hands unsteady. "Colonel Halford, your presence would mean everything. You're the reason I'm still alive and the leader I became. Please come. Sarah Chen, Major General." He set it on the kitchen table beside his coffee, staring at it like it might disappear. The apartment was small, clean, and painfully quiet. Bookshelves lined one wall. Military history, philosophy, worn paperbacks. A single display case sat in the corner. Glass dusty, contents hidden behind a draped cloth. He never opened it, never showed anyone what was inside. Neighbors knew him as Jim, the quiet guy who took morning walks and never caused trouble. They didn't know about the 32 years, the deployments, the nights he still woke up reaching for a rifle that wasn't there. He limped to the closet. Old injury, Afghanistan, a story he'd never tell, and pulled out his one civilian blazer. Navy blue, outdated but respectable. He ironed it carefully, each stroke deliberate, meditative, polished his scuffed leather shoes until they almost looked new. This wasn't about him. It never was. Sarah Chen had been a young captain under his command during the Helmand Offensive. Brilliant, fearless, and moments away from a fatal mistake that would have killed 40 soldiers. He'd corrected her quietly, took the operational blame himself, and spent an entire night teaching her what West Point couldn't. She remembered. Most didn't. Halford folded the invitation, slipped it into his blazer pocket, and exhaled slowly. He'd attend, pay his respects, slip out unnoticed. That's what invisible men do. Corporal Dixon held the invitation like it was contaminated, turning it over with theatrical suspicion. Mid-20s, fresh-faced, the kind of soldier who quoted regulations to feel powerful. "This could be fake," he announced loud enough for the growing line behind Halford to hear. "We've had issues with protesters crashing ceremonies." "It's authentic," Halford said quietly. "General Chen invited me personally. I served under—" "Yeah?" The second guard, younger, meaner, stepped closer. "You some kind of stolen valor wannabe? Trying to crash a military event in your goodwill jacket?" Halford's voice stayed level, but his jaw tightened. "I served 32 years. I have every right to be here." Dixon's eyes swept over him, the faded windbreaker, the scuffed shoes, the gray hair, and his lip curled. If you were someone important, you'd be in uniform. Important guests are on the VIP list. He tapped his tablet screen. You're not, I'm retired. I don't wear military ID, now. Halford reached for his wallet, hands moving slowly, deliberately. He produced a veteran's card and driver's license. Dixon barely glanced at them. Not good enough. Anyone can get a fake vet card online. Behind Halford, the line had grown. A Navy commander, 2 Air Force majors, a congressional aide in a tailored suit. All watching. Some shifted uncomfortably, eyes averted. One older colonel started forward. Hey, is there a problem here? But the second guard waved him through with a smile. No, sir, just protocol. Go right ahead. The colonel hesitated, then walked on. Halford felt his hands begin to tremble, not from fear, from something deeper, the weight of being erased. I was with the 75th Rangers, he said, voice barely above a whisper. Helmand Province. Operation Striker. General Chen was... Dixon rolled his eyes. Everyone's a war hero at the gate, sir. The word dripped with mockery. You know how many guys try this? I was Special Forces. I saved the general. I deserve VIP treatment. It's pathetic. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking to attend a ceremony I was invited to, and I'm asking you to leave before I call the MPs. Dixon stepped closer, voice hard. You've got 10 seconds. Halford stood frozen. 32 years, 3 continents, scars that still ached in cold weather. And now this, reduced to nothing by a kid who'd probably never heard a shot fired in anger. General Chen is expecting me. Dixon laughed, sharp, cruel. The general has better things to do than remember every guy who claims he served. The words hit like shrapnel, silent, invisible, forgotten. Halford turned to leave, shoulders sagging under the weight of humiliation. He'd taken 3 steps when the rumble of an engine stopped him cold. A black SUV rolled toward the gate, flags mounted on the hood, windows tinted, the kind of vehicle that carried stars and power. Dixon and his partner snapped to attention so fast their heels clicked in unison. The rear door opened. A captain stepped out, dress uniform immaculate, posture sharp as a blade. His eyes swept the checkpoint, landing on the commotion. On Halford, he froze mid-stride, his head tilted. Confusion flickered across his face, then recognition. Then something closer to alarm. Colonel Halford? The name hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Dixon recovered first, stepping forward with forced authority. Sir, this man has been attempting to gain unauthorized access to... This man, the captain interrupted, his voice ice over steel, is a personal guest of General Chen. He turned to Halford, and his entire demeanor shifted, shoulders squared, chin slightly lowered. Respect. Sir, why are you being detained? Dixon's confidence wavered. We were following protocol. He wasn't on the VIP list, and the captain pulled out his phone, dialing without breaking eye contact with the guards. Colonel Reed? We have a situation at the main gate. A pause. His jaw tightened. Colonel Halford is being denied entry. Another pause. Yes, sir. The Colonel Halford. Behind them, a brigadier general approached the checkpoint. He glanced at Halford, did a double take, and stopped dead. Wait, is that Jim Halford? He grabbed the arm of a passing major. That's Halford. From the 75th. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd like wind through tall grass. Inside the venue, 300 yards away, General Sarah Chen stood before a mirror, adjusting her uniform for the 10th time. An aide burst through the door, breathless. He leaned close, whispering urgently, her face drained of color, then flushed crimson. He's where? Her voice could have cut steel. Being stopped by who? She didn't wait for an answer. The speech notes fell from her hands as she strode toward the door, purpose in every step. Back at the gate, Dixon sensed the shift. The way officers stared, the whispers growing louder. He doubled down, voice shaking slightly. Protocol is protocol. The captain's eyes were glacial. You're about to learn what protocol really means. Corporal. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. She came like thunder given human form. General Sarah Chen's 2 stars caught the morning sun as she strode through the gate. Jaw set, eyes blazing with barely controlled fury. Every soldier within sight snapped to attention. Spines straight, hands locked, breath held. The crowd parted instinctively, sensing the storm about to break. She walked directly past Dixon as if he were invisible, as if he were nothing. Her expression transformed the moment she reached Halford, fury melting into something softer, deeper. "Colonel Halford." Her voice cracked slightly on his name. "Sir." Then she saluted, sharp, crisp, perfect. A 2-star general saluting a retired colonel in civilian clothes. The gesture rippled through the crowd like an electric shock. Eyes widened, mouths opened. This didn't happen. Generals didn't salute retirees. Not unless, Halford, stunned, returned the salute with trembling precision. "I am so sorry." Chen's voice was tight, controlled, each word weighted with emotion she was barely containing. "This is unacceptable." She pivoted toward Dixon and Winter returned to her eyes. "Explain, now." Dixon's voice came out small, desperate. "Ma'am, he wasn't on the VIP list. He had no military ID. Protocol requires verification before. This man is the VIP list." Each word landed like a hammer blow. "This man is the reason half the officers in that ceremony room are alive. This man held a defensive position for 3 days under constant fire, 40% casualties, so my battalion could evacuate." She stepped closer, and Dixon actually flinched. "This man has more combat decorations than you have days in service." The crowd had swelled. Officers who'd served in the 90s pressed closer, eyes narrowing, memory clicking into place. An older colonel's face went pale. "My God, that's James Halford. He trained me at command school," another whispered, voice reverent. "He's a legend. Distinguished Service Cross," someone added. "Twice." Chen's voice rose, clear and sharp enough to carry across the entire checkpoint. "Colonel James Halford, Silver Star. 2 Distinguished Service Crosses. Purple Heart with 3 clusters. 32 years of service. Commander of the 3rd Battalion, 75th Rangers." She paused, letting each word sink in. "The man who rewrote our counterinsurgency doctrine. The officer who mentored a generation of leaders." She turned back to Halford, and her voice softened. "And he's too humble to ever tell anyone." Then something happened that no one commanded. One by one. Without orders, without hesitation, every officer present raised their hand in salute. Lieutenants, captains, majors, a full colonel. A 3-star general passing through stopped mid-stride and joined them. 30 hands. 40. 50. All for one man in a faded windbreaker. Halford's eyes glistened. His hand rose, slower now, trembling for an entirely different reason. And he returned the salute to every single one of them. Dixon had gone the color of chalk. His partner looked like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole. Chen didn't even glance their way. "You 2 will report to my office after the ceremony." Then she turned back to Halford, and her voice became gentle. "Colonel, please forgive this failure. It won't happen again." She offered her arm. "May I escort you inside? I was hoping you'd ask you to say a few words during the ceremony. If you're willing." Halford's voice was barely a whisper. "I'd be honored." As they walked through the gate together, a 2-star general and a man invisible moments. Before, the crowd remained at attention, saluting not the rank but the man inside the ceremony hall. Halford sat in the front row, hands folded in his lap, still not quite believing he was there. The room hummed with dress uniforms, polished brass, and power. He felt small, out of place, visible in a way that made his chest tight. General Chen stood at the podium, delivering her change of command speech with the precision expected of a 2-star. But midway through she paused, set down her notes, and went off script. 20 years ago in Helmand Province, I was a captain who thought she knew everything. Her voice softened, became almost confessional. We were surrounded. Supplies low, morale lower. I made a tactical decision that would have gotten 40 soldiers killed. The room went silent, but my battalion commander, Colonel Halford, caught it. He didn't embarrass me, didn't pull rank. He quietly corrected the mistake, took the operational blame himself to protect my career, and then spent 3 hours teaching me what real leadership actually looked like. Her voice cracked. I learned more in that conversation than in 4 years at West Point. She looked directly at Halford. Colonel Halford never took credit, never sought recognition. He just served. That's what we're here to honor today. Not rank, not glory, but service. The room erupted, a standing ovation that lasted long enough to make Halford wipe his eyes with the back of his hand. After the ceremony, as guests filtered toward the reception, 2 figures approached him. Dixon and his partner, uniforms suddenly feeling too tight, faces pale with shame. Dixon's voice shook. Sir, There's no excuse. I judged you by your appearance. I was arrogant and wrong. Halford studied them, really looked, and saw not monsters but 2 young men drowning in regret. You were doing your job, he said gently. Protecting this base. That's honorable work, Dixon shook his head. No, sir. We were lazy, disrespectful. Halford placed a hand on the corporal's shoulder. Then learn from it. Real strength isn't about power or protocol. It's about seeing people, all people, even the ones who don't look important. The guards left changed, humbled, forgiven better, and for one evening surrounded by old comrades and quiet conversations, James Halford stepped out of invisibility, not because he sought it, but because he'd always deserved it. The moral and call to action that night. Halford returned to apartment 3B with something he hadn't carried in years. A photograph. General Chen's arm around his shoulders, both smiling. Real smiles, the kind that come from shared history and mutual respect. He placed it on the shelf beside the invitation, not as a trophy, but as proof. He wasn't forgotten, not by everyone. The truth is, greatness doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand recognition or wear its achievements like armor. The most important people often look the most ordinary. Weathered jackets, quiet voices, limps earned in places most of us will never see. Respect isn't something you earn through rank or appearance. Something owed to every person until they prove otherwise. Those guards learned that lesson the hardest way. They'll carry it for the rest of their careers, and they'll be better leaders because of it. Never assume you know someone's story by looking at them. Service comes in countless forms, often invisible, always worthy of dignity. Halford stood at his window, the ceremony photo catching the evening light. A faint smile crossed his face. He was still invisible to most of the world, but not to those who mattered. Honor the quiet ones. Respect costs nothing but means everything. And always, always look twice before judging someone's worth. If this story reminded you to see people differently, share it. Let's honor the invisible heroes walking among us. They deserve better than our assumptions. They deserve our respect.